done with him. We're trying to be, solutions-oriented, always trying to put the roster together within our constraints, and we'll continue those conversations.
If you knew for sure that he would be on the roster, would you have committed what you committed to Alexander Mattison?
I think that's... Yeah, I think in theory they could exist, and of course, different style of backs. We try, and again, we talk about the systems we're trying to play together. They're different style of backs. They could fit complementary together for sure.
Vikings GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah last week, pre-draft press conference, both he and Coach Kevin O'Connell. The question of Dalvin Cook's unresolved status with the team. I think a lot of people assumed that when the new league year came and went, when the $2 million in salary that was guaranteed for injury became fully guaranteed on March 17, that just ends the issue. They're going to have Dalvin Cook at $10.4 million this year, and it doesn't end the issue. First of all, they weren't going to cut him before March 17 because my understanding is he couldn't have passed a physical. He's got that shoulder injury, that chronic problem. His agent was on a podcast recently saying this guy's been playing with one shoulder for the past 2 years. And it's only $2 million. If they would cut him, there's an offset obligation. He's presumably going to make $2 million somewhere else, and the Vikings dramatically reduce, if not completely wipe out, that $2 million obligation. It's the other 8.4 that's the issue. How many running backs are worth 8 figures right now in the NFL? They signed Madison for 2 years, $7 million total. And even though Madison probably isn't ready to take over as the number one guy, in the past, when Cook has been injured, Madison's been good enough.
Yeah.
He's had some 100-yard games.
Sure.
He's been good enough. Dollar for dollar, he's good enough. And this Dalvin Cook situation, Chris, just continues to hover. I just assume it goes through the draft. We'll see if the Vikings, who have limited picks going in, they may have more on the way back out based upon trades they do. Will the Vikings draft the running back that they developed to pair with Alexander Mattison? Will another team that hopes to address the running back position just fail to address it the way they'd like to as a result of basic numbers and work out a deal to trade for Cook? But the bottom line is this: he ain't getting $10.4 million this year. That's what he needs to come to terms with. That's what his agent needs to come to terms with. If they trade that contract, they're not trading $10.4. Now, maybe he'll sign an extension that pays out $10.4 this year and signing bonus money that gets spread over multiple years. But he's not getting $10.4 million for this year alone. No one's going to pay him that.
No, I understand that. Now,
It's not a knock on him.
No, well,
it's a reality of the position.
It is. It's a reality of the position. And, to me, again, we're talking about it still an elite running back in the NFL. I mean, elite. But there's a question there. Like we just saw in that clip, and you see in that clip there's a harness on his left shoulder. I mean, and he's at an age where, you start to worry about the wear and tear of the position. And we've seen the shoulder go out on some pretty normal plays as far as a running back's concerned. But this is not normal right here. This is not normal, and this is why you think twice about trading this guy or letting this guy out the door just for $10 million, which is really a drop in the bucket this day and age in the NFL. I mean, because 70 yards down the sideline is still a very real thing with Dalvin Cook. And there's just a short list of people in football that can really do that. So that's where they got to balance it, Mike. And I mean, you as a Viking fan, what do you want to see them do here? I know not personal to the player.
Win.
I know you like the player, but what do you think? What would you do? What do you want to see done here as a Vikings fan?
Hey, that long touchdown run against the Bills was the spark when they were down 17
That
points.
was
I mean, the guy still
exactly.
can play.
Right.
But the position is one at which the supply grossly outweighs the demand. You have to factor that into what you do. And I think at this point, it makes sense to see what happens draft weekend there and elsewhere. Reassess, reevaluate after the draft. I think if they could keep Dalvin Cook, that would be great. Just like with Kirk Cousins, right? Unless and until you can find someone better than Kirk Cousins, you better be glad you have Kirk Cousins because you could be a lot worse without him. With Cook, I think it's easier to get to the point where you match him, and there isn't as big of a drop-off from him to Alexander Mattison, but there's still risk involved. The question is, if they can't trade him and they don't want to pay him 10-4, can they work out a deal where he takes less to stay in Minnesota? Or will he refuse to take a penny less? If he's going to take a penny less, it's going to be somewhere else. He's going to say, cut me, and he hits the open market, and he goes and plays for another team. I assume it's not going to be the Bills. There had been some talk at one point about the Bills, pairing him with his brother James. James is squatted on number 4, so I have a feeling they know Dalvin's not going to Buffalo because James already has Dalvin's number. But still, there's somebody out there. If he's available, if he's cut, I think there'll be multiple teams that pursue him, unlike what we've seen with Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
But not for $10.4 million this year.
No, not for $10.4 million, but still a good payday and still enough of a player to where if you are Minnesota and you do that, like you're kind of saying, where he can make you regret it. That's where they got to figure that out. He can make you regret it to where you're watching next year and you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, you're going, damn, we let Dalvin Cook go a year too early. He's still running for 70-yard touchdowns on everybody. And last time I checked, nobody is writing home about the Vikings offensive line being one of the best in football. Nobody is saying that. That does not exist, that conversation. So that's where it's like, it's a tough one. And I know what you're saying. And you're right in the way you kind of laid it out. If they were lucky and I don't know, somehow in the second round, Jahmyr Gibbs fell to them out from Alabama. Hey, yeah, you run to the table, you take it.
They don't have a second-round pick.
Oh, that's not happening. That's right. You said that. So, yeah, they're not going to take one at 20, I don't think. They got other needs there. He'd be one here that I'd be seriously thinking about. Maybe I should let this just hang on for one more year before I make this type of change. I would, even though it's a dangerous proposition, the shoulder, the age, all of that. But like you said, this ain't Ezekiel Elliott. This is a guy where there's still plenty of runs and stuff where I go, whoa, or I go, whoa, he should have got 5 yards and he got 25, right? I mean, that's where he's still special, but there's a lot to weigh there with the price tag, the age, and the position.
Hypothetical question.
Okay.
Hypothetical. Okay? Vikings have the 23rd overall pick in the draft.
Yeah.
When it's time for them to pick, Hendon Hooker on the board, Bijan Robinson on the board, who would you take?
Oh, man. I'd take Hendon Hooker. I would. I'm going to go, err on the quarterback. I'm a big Hendon Hooker fan, and I just think it's a pick that's made to where your organization could be set up for the next 8 to 10 years at that position, and it's sitting there staring you in the face, and you can't turn it down, right? And he fits the way your new head coach and offensive coordinator wants to play and wants with the things that he wants done by the quarterback. This guy can do it. So, yeah, I would go Hendon Hooker there, Mike. What about you, buddy?
The Vikings are currently the favorite to be Hendon Hooker landing spot. Plus 350 is where they are, and it fits with what I think they're trying to do. They want to have a transition from Kirk Cousins to the next guy, and it's all setting up for this to be Cousins last year in Minnesota. And if they look, I'm going to trust that Kevin O'Connell understands the importance of not overdrafting a quarterback now just to have one that gets developed. You truly have to love the guy you're taking at 23, or even if you're tempted to trade up to try to get that guy even sooner, if you truly fall in love with him and you think you can make him into the guy and you can partner with this guy for 10 to 15 years to be the franchise quarterback of the Vikings, the guy that they haven't really had. I mean, Cousins, I'm sorry, but I mean, when's the last time, they had that flash with Favre in 2009? And, I mean, Dante Culpepper looked like he was going to be the guy for 10 years until his knee got completely blown away in 2005 in Carolina. They really haven't had that year in and year out franchise guy since Fran himself. Fran Tarkenton, they haven't had. I mean, Tommy Kramer for a little while, but then it was just kind of lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, it was nothing solidified.
Wade Wilson for a little while. Rich Gannon for a little while.
Jim McMahon for
Randall
a little
Cunningham
bit.
for a little while. Brad Johnson for a little while. Jim McMahon for a little while. It's been a little while, and Kirk Cousins quietly has little whiled his way into 5 years as the Vikings starter. But again, I mean, look, setting aside the numbers, setting aside the analytics, setting aside everything and just relying upon eyeballs and meatballs, he's not going to take them to where they want to be. He's not, and that's okay. That's okay. There's only a short list of quarterbacks currently in the NFL capable of taking a team where it wants to be. And I think the Vikings are at the point where they're at least exploring the possibility of getting someone who can become that guy. And there's no guarantee they're going to. But after 5 years, half of a decade with Kirk Cousins, it's okay to say he is exactly who he's ever going to be. Unless he goes to San Francisco and he stays healthy and they have enough of a team around him, then all of a sudden he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But it won't be because of him.
No,
It'll
that's
be
not what
because
he
of
is.
everything around him.
That's right. Yeah, you got to support him or give him the, all the ingredients, and then he can cook a hell of a meal from there. But he's not going to be like, oh, we don't have this ingredient and that ingredient, and it still tastes good, guys, when I'm done. Don't worry. No, that's Mahomes or Josh Allen or Burrow or the Bradys or whatever. That's those guys. Oh, we're missing this guy this week, or we're missing a few receivers for a few weeks. So what? I'll carry you. Get on my back. Let's go. No, you're right. You're right. It's not. It's got to be something that we've seen with Jimmy Garoppolo, or what we saw with Jared Goff with the Rams, or what we saw with Nick Foles to the Eagles, or even Russell Wilson early on in his career with Seattle when they won the Super Bowl. I mean, again, it wasn't Russell magic, but yeah, to your point, he's got to have that team, that system, something there. And then he'll do his part. That's for sure. But yeah, he's not going to 360 spin out of the Dexter Lawrence sack at the end of the game and then set up and then dodge somebody and set up again and throw a laser, and you're going to go, damn, we're still alive. Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. No, that's not going to happen.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.